if metanoia is transforming our mind to think from above, to think heavenly thoughts, then unmetanoia is purposely causing ourselves to think back according to the old man. Alright, you got a spirit, you have a mind, and you have a body. Deep well, alright? Like I've heard this since I was like 4. Thank you so much for this abundant wisdom. Alright, so this is the design flow. What's first in the design? Spirit, right? What's number 2? What's number 3? Alright, so in the mind, for the mind to be healthy, what do you have? You have the head, and you have the heart. And so I could be in proper alignment here, if I'm head oriented, then I'm flowing this way, then I'm going to be out of whack this way. If I'm heart oriented and I'm not listening to the wisdom from the head, power, love, and wisdom, then I'm going to be flowing in one direction. But this is the design and the pattern that's supposed to be there. So what are 2 ways we can mix this up? Number 1, body, mind, spirit. What do you think happens if you're firing that direction?
Your body's in charge.
Your body's in charge.
Spirit.
And so your spirit is getting substance from what your body chooses to do. And that's how you can misguide the body and the mind, because the mind creates patterns based on behavior. And you begin to fire from that function. So if you are out of whack this way, so this can lead to 2 things. Addiction, because you're fueling the body, listening to what the body wants to do, and it can fuel rebellion. Alright? And the other way, what happens if you do this? What's the flip? The reason the spirit's at the bottom is because the spirit is supposed to be the governor. And so when the mind's the governor, then the mind controls the body, and the spirit becomes subject to a spiritual experience outside of the intended design. Because the spirit is filled with the Holy Spirit, and that's the residence. It's supposed to be there. But if it's out of whack, and the spirit, and you're getting fuel from this way, you still might have a relationship with the Holy Spirit, but you're getting fuel from other sources. This is how you can end up in religion.
Yeah.
And the Bible has 2 examples of this. What are they? This is the younger brother, the prodigal son. This is the older brother. Both of them didn't have the spirit-focused father-son connection. And so the one brother was like, I'm doing everything correctly, head. And then the other one's like, I want to be free, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I'm going to do this. So the brothers clearly didn't have a good relationship. They were probably in competition. But if they were in a relationship, they actually would have helped balance each other out. Somewhere in here I had pride and shame, right? And so along with this would come shame, and along with this would come pride. And you actually see it again, you see that in the, what was it, Luke 15? Is it Luke 15? No, that's the vine. Where's prodigal son, or is it Luke 15? Okay, I really did my Bible homework, right? My pride is flying through the roof. But you end up with these factors. And so understanding the proper alignment in the spirit and the soul and the body, and we want to be healthy in the spirit and soul and body. So I want to make sure I'm spending time to nourish each one of those. I want to make sure I have spiritual nourishment. I want to make sure I have mental nourishment. And I want to make sure I have physical nourishment. And when that gets out of whack, if I'm focusing more on physical nourishment than I am on spiritual nourishment, well, then that's when everything begins to change. So we want to make sure we nourish the body, nourish the mind, and nourish the spirit. We can nourish them all together, and we can nourish them separately. How many of you have ever had like a spiritual high? Everything is going awesome, it's wonderful, it's amazing. God moved in revelation, both in the Word and encounter, right? And everything's humming and going. And then like a couple days later, you're like, oh my gosh, like everything's terrible. Oh, the world's collapsing on me. This feels painful. Oh, and all of a sudden, the enemy's like, ooh, remember how this made you feel better? Yeah. Oh, that feels better. Oh, now I feel worse. Right? Because you can go from a spiritual high to a low because the spirit was getting fed. And it's actually proper after we come off the spiritual high to have time to nourish our mind and our body. But the enemy likes to come in and say, oh, your body needs something, and push you over the edge. Like, I love being cosmic. I love having all these amazing encounters. But then I want to go, like, sit on the beach, have a good meal, stick my feet in the sand, and just look at the water. Yeah. Okay, now I'm nourishing my body the same way I was nourishing my spirit a moment ago. And so I don't create this imbalance that causes me to react rather than receive. So pleasure makes us unmetanoia. If metanoia is transforming our mind to think from above, to think heavenly thoughts, then unmetanoia is purposely causing ourselves to think back according to the old man. Paul's like, hey, don't do that. That person's like gone. Like, don't, again, think in the lower reality. Not only is that person gone, that person was put to death by Jesus.
Amen.
But the enemy wants us to continue to think that Jesus, because that creates separation, that creates distance. If I start thinking like this again, no longer is he right here, my best friend. He's kind of out there, right? Even though he didn't really leave or go anywhere, I feel like he did because I'm focusing my gaze and my thoughts on something else. So you want to fill your love tank, and this is also how you can leave your love languages to love yourself. You can use the love languages to nourish your spirit, your body, your mind, your head, and your heart. You know, some people like to be around people's work, and they just love being alone. I need that alone time, right? And some people are more introverted or extroverted, and they feel better around people. They don't like to sit at home alone. They want to call someone and see what that person's doing and go hang out with them, because that's when they come alive. And so that can be healthy, that can be fine. Often, if you have a hard time being alone, it's because you don't love yourself. So we can be wired a certain way, but then we could also, a love deficit could cause the way we're wired, take something that's supposed to be a strength and actually make it a weakness. And if you look, and so many people have said this, if you look at the area the enemy's attacking you the most, that's probably the area of your greatest calling. Because you're wired that way, but you're struggling. I had a problem with what these natural eyes were looking at because my eyes were designed to see in heavenly places. Yeah. And so what the enemy is trying to do is cause me to see things hidden in darkness rather than see things hidden in light. And so I would go through this yo-yo of prophesying, fire, and then all of a sudden I'm looking at something I shouldn't be. I'm like, how in the world did I go from this mountaintop all the way down into this pit so quickly? It's because he's pulling on the way I was naturally designed and gifted to do. He just put a substitute in there, and I looked long enough for my glimpse to become a gaze, and then just to say, okay, well, if I just step 1 foot in, and then before you know it, you're 2 feet in. Right? But if you're aware of who you are and what your strengths are, then not only will you have healthy yeses and nos, you'll have healthy yeses and nos to yourself and to the enemy. You'll never give him a yes, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But if he's coming to attack you in one area, then you know that that area is a yes in God. If he's trying to get you to say yes to something, it's because God has a bigger yes. Right. My yeses are so valuable, or how do I say it? Oh, so if you're able to receive a no from someone, or give a no, that's going to make the yes all the more valuable. Especially if it's dealing with temptation, whether it's something your flesh wants to do or something the enemy's trying to tempt you to do. But if the mind is renewed, then the body is renewed as well. Because mind renewal is metanoia, body renewal is transfiguration. Right? And spirit renewal is being baptized in fire. So you have these 3 different renewals, or these 3 different immersions that cover our entire spiritual makeup. When Jesus was baptized in water, he went into the earth, came back out, Holy Spirit came down. There's 2 members of the Godhead. Then God looked back at the earth and said, this is my beloved Son, I'm well pleased. I'm well pleased when people are healthy, body, mind, and spirit.